Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are focusing on a subject that is, well, it's absolutely central to everything happening in global affairs right now. And that is the fight against systemic corruption in Ukraine.
Hmm.
I mean, this single issue, it dictates the flow of international aid. It's the key condition for their ambition to join the EU. And really, it's a battle for the soul of the nation.
It really is. And this isn't some political sideline. It's an existential conflict, and it's being fought right alongside the war on the front lines.
And the sources we have they're pretty comprehensive. We've got deep historical context, a look at the political maneuvering, and some of these really explosive wartime investigations happening as we speak.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to try and cut through that complexity. We want to give you a clear, structural way to understand this paradox.
It is a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah. How can Ukraine be showing measurable year-over-year progress against corruption, since 2015, but at the same time still be facing these systemic issues that everyone calls an existential threat?
Well, to get that, you have to start with the history. This level of corruption, it didn't just appear out of nowhere.
Right.
Its roots go way back, back to the 1980s, with the integration of organized crime into the Soviet nomenclatura, the ruling elite.
And when the Soviet Union collapsed in '91,
That network just adapted. It didn't disappear. It seized state assets, and it turned Ukraine into what some U.S. diplomatic cables at the time were calling a burgeoning kleptocracy.
under presidents like Kushma and Yushchenko.
Precisely. And the crucial thing to understand is that this rot, it didn't just stay in the halls of power. It seeped into everyday life for everyone.
So if you were just a citizen trying to get by in the early 2010s, you were running into this constantly.
Constantly. It was institutionalized petty bribery. I mean, think about it. A patient paying cash in a supposedly free state hospital just to get the treatment they need.
Or students.
Yeah, students paying, what, $10 or $50 just to pass an exam. Or, thousands for university entry. It was just the cost of living, the cost of citizenship.
That deep, pervasive feeling that you're being governed by people who are just out for themselves, that had to reach a breaking point.
And it did. When the Maidan uprising, the Revolution of Dignity, kicked off in 2014, yes, the immediate trigger was political.
But for the protesters,
For so many of them on the streets, they cited corruption under the Yanukovych regime as the single biggest reason for being there. Corruption was already fueling revolutions.
and that whole system was basically held up by the courts, by the judiciary.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
It was widely seen as being, quote, rotten to the core. To give you a sense of the scale, think about this detail from 2017. The prime minister at the time, Groisman, he pointed out that 30 judges whose official salaries were only about $10,000 to $13,000 a year, somehow own Porsches.
Porsches, that kind of open impunity, it's just staggering.
It was the norm.
So, okay, we've established the history, the scope, the rot ran deep for decades. How do you even begin to fix something like that? And I guess, why is reform even possible now?
That brings us to the architecture of the solution. The big response after Maidan was to create new, completely independent anti-corruption institutions.
And these are the key players.
These are crucial. You have the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, or NBU,
Right.
the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAPO, and then the High Anti-Corruption Court, which really got up and running in 2019.
And the very existence of these bodies, that's directly tied to international pressure, isn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. Reducing corruption has always been a key test for getting continued IMF support. And all the international partners, they condition their assistance on these anti-corruption measures.
So Ukraine needs the money, and that gives these new institutions a shield.
A vital shield. That external leverage has been essential.
And we can actually see the progress in the numbers, too. If you look at the Corruption Perceptions Index, the CPI, Ukraine scored 35 out of 100 in 2024.
Which still puts them 105th in the world, so it's a long way to go.
Sure, but Transparency International points out that the score has been improving steadily for 11 years. It even jumped 3 points just from 2022 to 2023.
And you have to remember the starting point. I mean, back in 2015, The Guardian was calling Ukraine the most corrupt nation in Europe.
Wow.
So that institutional progress, the very fact that they have these independent agencies now, that's what makes the last decade totally different from the 20 years that came before.
But here's the core insight, I think. The battle is constant. These institutions are always under attack from political forces that want to, reel them back in.
Yes.
And there's that incredible example from July of 2025.
A critical moment, truly. President Zelenski signed a bill that would have Well, it would have effectively killed the independence of NDU and SAPO.
How so?
It would have put them under the oversight of the Prosecutor General.
Who is a presidential appointee.
Presidential appointee.
Yeah.
So that would give the executive branch the power to interfere in cases, to transfer politically sensitive investigations away. It would have gutted them.
And the backlash was...
It was immediate and massive. Nationwide protests erupted, and the EU didn't mess around. They threatened to freeze $1.7 billion in critical aid.
Wow.
And that combination of public pressure and the threat from allies forced the president to backtrack. He had to introduce a new draft bill to restore their independence.
And that story right there, that specific battle, it really reveals how reform actually works in Ukraine.
It does. It's not some gift from the top down. It's domestic institutions, backed by a powerful civil society, using international leverage to successfully check the power of the executive. That pushback is everything.
Okay, so that brings us to the present crisis. High-stakes wartime corruption. When you have billions in aid pouring in, emergency procurement, the opportunities for graft just explode.
They absolutely do. And the types of corruption have changed. We're now seeing reports of officers extorting bribes just for military leave.
No.
Yeah. Pilfering foreign aid. We're talking canned food, clothes meant for soldiers, ending up for sale on store shelves, or conscription officers taking huge bribes to smuggle draft-eligible men out of the country.
And the government has had to respond, and respond aggressively. In January 2023, there was that huge shakeup.
A major shakeup. Several senior officials, I think 5 presidential governors, resigned over corruption scandals. The deputy defense minister was out over a massive procurement scandal.
They're taking action.
And we've seen arrests at levels that were just unthinkable before. That same culture we talked about with judges in Porsches.
Right.
Well, in May 2023, NABU detained Vsevolod Kanziev. He was the acting president of the Supreme Court.
The head of the Supreme Court.
For allegedly taking a massive bribe.
Sure.
That sent a signal that this new anti-corruption architecture is now strong enough to go after figures who were completely untouchable.
And the investigations just keep coming. Look at that Energoatom probe from November 2025.
That was a huge one. A major investigation into alleged kickbacks and fraud at the state nuclear operator. Authorities were alleging that contractors were being forced to pay kickbacks of like 10 to 15% on every contract.
And that sent shockwaves through the government.
Oh, it did. It led to the resignation of the Justice and Energy ministers. The entire supervisory board was dismissed. And what made that one so politically difficult was that the probe reportedly implicated a former associate of President Zelensky himself.
Which shows just how close to the top these investigations are getting.
Right to the top.
Speaking of the atmosphere in Kyiv, there was that quote from a top presidential advisor who was reportedly so alarmed they warned that, quote, people are stealing like there's no tomorrow.
That phrase just captures it, doesn't it? The chaos and the opportunity that comes with wartime spending.
And we should probably add some context here with the Pandora Papers investigation from 2021.
Right, it wasn't a finding of criminality, but the reporting showed that Zelensky and his inner circle had used offshore companies for their media businesses before he became president.
So when he came into office on this huge anti-oligarch platform, that reporting immediately raised transparency questions.
It did. But to be fair, there has been real movement on the oligarch front as well. The long-running case with Private Bank and its former owner, Ihor Kolomoisky, has seen civil rulings in international courts finding the ex-owners liable. So the legal pressure on those entrenched, powerful figures is very real and it's ongoing.
Okay, so let's synthesize all of this. Let's unpack it. The corruption challenge in Ukraine it's historical, it's systemic, and it's just deeply rooted in that post-Soviet power structure. It touches everything.
From public services to wartime procurement, yeah.
But, and this is the key takeaway for me, the struggle is dynamic. It's a real fight. Despite those deep roots, despite the repeated political attacks like that attempt to gut ABU in July 2025.
The institutional framework plus that strong public will.
It's proving resilient enough to push back. The system is still fighting, but now the reformers actually have some teeth.
And the outcome of that fight matters for everyone. I mean, Ukraine's success here is directly tied to its ability to keep getting international military and financial support.
And its ultimate goal.
And its ultimate goal of joining the European Union. As Transparency International warns, the number of high-level cases is worrisome, and it shows there's just so much more work to be done.
Which leaves us, and you, with this final thought to consider. A 2025 Gallup poll found that 85% of Ukrainians believe corruption is widespread throughout their government.
85%.
When almost everyone agrees, the problem is that massive. How does a government balance the absolute imperative of wartime unity against the absolute necessity of prosecuting high-level corruption that involves figures very close to the wartime leadership? That tension right there defines their entire struggle today.